People in America fell in love with Bewitched, but they didn't know what was really going on behind the scenes. A lot of work went into the show on the day that John F. Kennedy was killed. Within a few years of the show ending, everyone in the group died. The star was only 62 years old when she died of cancer. Both of the guys who played her husband died young. The woman who played her mother also passed away from cancer. Even the actress who played the nosy neighbor was hiding cancer that would kill her while the movie was being made. Real-life curses followed them long after the cameras stopped rolling. Saul Sachs never said that he came up with the idea for Bewitched by himself. In fact, he freely admitted that the idea came from two earlier movies, I Married a Witch 1942 and Bell, Book and Candle 1958. But there was no trouble with the law. Columbia Pictures owned the rights to both movies and Run DMC, the company that made Bewitched. Saul could borrow as much as he wanted. He did it. In his own book, he even said that the only thing that made it unique was how it worked on TV. He didn't try to hide it. He actually only wrote the pilot and never worked on any other scripts. His name was still in the credits for all 254 shows. He did nothing but sit back and take checks. Afterwards, one of his co-workers said that he got hit by a lucky stick. The first days of work on Bewitched were November 22, 1963. It was meant to be a new start. Not at all. It turned into a national tragedy. That very day, President John F. Kennedy was killed. Time could not have been worse. William Asher, who was in charge, had worked with JFK before. In 1962, he put together Marilyn Monroe's famous birthday show. He was married to Elizabeth Montgomery, and they were both very sad. They had a relationship with Kennedy. Rehearsals were put off right away. In the end, that bad start led to a strange idea called the Bewitched curse. Montgomery was one of many group members who died young over the years. In spite of its scary start, the show went on to become a beloved favorite. A person named Harry Ackerman worked behind the scenes to make it all happen. He was a strong supervisor at CBS who helped Montgomery and Asher find a project they could work on together. The Fun Couple was the name of their first idea, but it didn't work out. He then hired Saul Sachs to write something else, which turned into Bewitched. He was also in the room on that terrible November day. Later, he helped solve problems like Samantha's first name, Cassandra, which Montgomery didn't like because it sounded mean. People at the network weren't sure what to think about a family comedy with witches and magic at first, but Ackerman kept the show on track. Elizabeth Montgomery was so much more than a star. She was from a famous family in Hollywood. Robert Montgomery, her father, was a well-known actor and director. But things were hard between them. She said she didn't want her kids to be around him one time. He did help her get started though. When she first came on Robert Montgomery Presents in the early 1950s, she got good reviews. She won awards and was nominated for an Emmy for her role in The Untouchables. She also appeared on popular TV shows like Alfred Hitchcock Presents and The Twilight Zone. She was more than just pretty by the time Bewitched came along. She was really good at playing. The story of how Darren got cast is one of the best what-if stories on TV. The first choice was Dick Sargent, but he was already signed with NBC. So they chose Dick York instead. Darren was his role from 1964 to 1969, and he was even nominated for an Emmy. But he hurt his back badly in a movie from 1959. He was in pain all the time and needed painkillers to keep going. He had a seizure one day on the set and fell down. That was it. He was unable to go on. When producers had to quickly find someone else, they went back to Sargent. York told him to take the job with a lot of ease. It was one of the few times Hollywood changed the cast with real class. Some people might not have thought that Agnes Moorehead would play a witch, but she did. Her father was a Presbyterian preacher and raised her. At age 3, she did her first act when she said the Lord's Prayer in church. Throughout her work, she kept that faith with her. On set, people remembered that she had the script in one hand and a Bible in the other. She was trained as an actress, wrote English, and spoke in public. She was a highly religious and serious actress who had been nominated for 4 Oscars, even though she played a magical and flashy character. After that, there was Paul Lynde. His crazy, showy sense of humor stole every scene as Uncle Arthur. He hid a big part of himself, though. It was the 1960s and 1970s, and Lynde was gay. He was stuck. It was never touched by the press. In one story, his partner was called his sweetheart and bodyguard chauffeur. His lover's name, Pablo, was even written on the license plate of his car. When Bewitched first aired on September 17, 1964, no one thought it would become so popular. It was more than just another show. It was the first real comedy hit for ABC. It quickly rose to become the second most watched TV show in the United States, just behind Bonanza. A huge 31.0 Nielsen number was given to it that season. That meant that every week, millions of people watched as a witch tried to live a regular life with her human husband. CBS and NBC often beat up on AC, but they finally had a big hit. Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m., the show ran with other hits like My Three Sons and Peyton Place. The first season had 36 shows and made Elizabeth Montgomery a well-known name. Later, the black and white shows were colored so that they would still be useful for syndication. It was still so fun for people to watch. The number of people kept going up. Bewitched kept going strong even after its first year. It was ranked 7th in Season 2 with a 25.9 score. Season 3 and they came in 7th place again, this time with a 23.4. It stayed in 11th place for Seasons 4 and 5, with scores just a little lower. 23.5 and 23.3. Families only had 3 channels to choose from at the time, and almost every TV was showing Bewitched. It stayed in the top 11 for 5 years in a row. That level of regularity was very rare, and ABC never saw it happen. People watched the show all the time in the 1960s, it wasn't just for fun. Bewitched switched to color by the 3rd season. But the change wasn't easy. Jerry Davis, the producer, quit all of a sudden, which caused chaos behind the scenes. William Asher, who was married to Elizabeth Montgomery and directed many shows, wanted to be in charge of everything. However, William Frew was hired instead. He had worked on Gilligan's Island and The Twilight Zone before, but this was a new job. Asher still made most of the artistic choices, but Frew was in charge. The set was tense because of that awkward setting. Even though there were changes and the show moved from 9 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., it still got a 23.4 rating and came in 7th that season. Frew left after that season, and Asher finally took over. Samantha flying on a broomstick and moving her nose in the show's opening animation was one of the cutest parts. It wasn't just a quick sketch. It came from Hanna-Barbera, the company that made Yogi Bear and the Flintstones. Ed Benedict, who had helped make Fred Flintstone, was brought in. He made a cartoon scene in which Samantha quickly changes from a witch to a housewife from the suburbs. It's been 8 years since that short clip changed. That thing became a sign for the whole TV age, not just the show. Critics remembered Bewitched even after many years had passed. TV Guide named it 50th among the best shows of all time in 2002. One of its episodes, Divided He Falls, was named the 48th best show ever made back in 1997. In that one, Endora changes Darren into 2 different people, one who is serious and one who is silly. Everyone liked Dick York's work on both sides. When York quit and Dick Sargent took his place, the producers even made that show again. It was that important. But there was a darker story going on behind Dick York's funny and likable performance. When York was making the movie They Came to Cordura in 1959, he got hurt badly. He helped move a railway handcar. Everyone let go except York when the director yelled, "Cut," he got hit by the whole weight. His muscles tore and his back bent. He never took care of it right. He worked through the pain for years. But it cost a lot. His discs began to fall apart. He lost 6 inches on height and slouched over all the time. Because of an accident he never fully got over, his job and health were now linked. York was already hooked on drugs before Bewitched started. He did anything to get through the pain, slept pills, steroids, muscle relaxers and more. But he wouldn't take anything while they were recording. He was hurt during every shot. He would lie on a board in his trailer between sets. Other players would help him stand or get through heavy doors from time to time. Even so, the pain never went away, and the drugs kept getting stronger. By 1968, he was really hooked on drugs. In 1969, the stress finally broke him. He fell while being lifted onto a stage for a scene. He passed out right there on the set. It caused a seizure. He was taken to the hospital right away. That was it. It was the end of his time on Bewitched. In the end, he said it was the worst day of his life. ABC couldn't end a show that was doing so well. This is why they called Dick Sargent. He had tried out for the part years before. Before saying yes, Sargent called York. York gave his full approval. "Take it," he said. "I give you my blessing." It was one of the last things Darren Stevens did as that name. York's life kept getting worse after the show. He stayed in bed and took a lot of medicine for the next year and a half. He spent all of his cash. He stopped taking drugs all of a sudden and moved in with his mom. He didn't want his 5 kids to see him pull away. He bought an apartment building as a way to start over. But he wouldn't kick people out when they couldn't pay their rent. He thought about his own childhood during the Great Depression and just couldn't get himself to kick anyone out. The building had been foreclosed on. He and his wife cleaned the other units to keep their own. In 1976, the man who used to make 6 figures was now getting help. He made it clear, in the history of TV he went from being the star of one of the biggest shows to cleaning toilets. York got bronchitis in his last years because he smoked 3 packs a day. He was hooked up to an oxygen tank and lived in a small house in Michigan. He only got $650 a month from his Screen Actors Guild salary. He wanted to help people even though he couldn't walk more than 25 feet without air. In order to start acting for life, he called shelters and government offices. He got things for them, things like clothes, blankets, beds, and even orange juice. In 1988, he helped send 15,000 military clothes and a lot of food cans. He only spoke when someone asked him how he was. He said, "I feel great. My body is the only thing that's dying." Fans of the show Bewitched were lost in 1969. Out of the blue. Darren Stevens was played by a different actor. Dick Sargent took over for Dick York, but the show didn't say why. Even though Dick Sargent seemed calm on TV, he was hiding something that could have ended his career in an instant. Being gay in a field that punished people for it made him stand out. He was born Richard Stanford Cox in 1930. He lived 2 lives at once by making up a wife for the press. He dated someone for more than 20 years and no one knew about it. When that man died in 1979 from a brain hemorrhage, Sargent didn't say a word. It was especially hard to be the perfect husband on TV because he knew he could never really live. He played a man who married a witch. He was stuck because of a different kind of secret in real life. He finally told everyone the truth in 1991. On National Coming Out Day, he told Sheila Quayle, an organizer, that he was gay while they were on TV. He was 61 years old. He was already fighting cancer of the prostate. He didn't care that some people might think he had AIDS. He said, "Being honest makes me happier than any acting job I've ever had." He did not want young people to be lonely. They worked together as co-grand marshals of the LA Pride Parade in 1992. She told him she loved him as she stood next to him. "I'm happy for him." The magic between them came back for a short time. Then something strange happened that no one saw coming. On February 20th, 1992, Dick York passed away. At age 63, he was broken from years of heavy smoking and being poor. His success went away after he left Bewitched. He and his wife ended up on welfare, but he found meaning in his life by beginning a project he called Acting for Life to help poor people. On July 8, 1994, only 29 months after that, Sargent also died. 64. Montgomery was sad about his death and said he was a good friend. Not long after that, on May 18, 1995, she also died. She was only 62 years old. In just 3 years, all 3 of Bewitched's main stars were gone. Montgomery was sick of the part a long time before she died. As of 1968, she was bored with her role as Samantha. She could stay if ABC paid her $30,000 an episode, which is more than $220,000 today. She took the money, but she didn't like being locked up. She once said that a twitch blocked her freedom. She was well known for that twitch, her nose wiggle. But she needed real work. By season 7, she begged the writers to take away the magic and give her more serious material. They said no. The shine was going away quickly. At the same time, her real marriage to director William Asher was breaking down. They had 3 kids, and had been on the show together since the beginning. In 1971 though, they were so sick of each other that they could hardly stand to be in the same room. On set, rumors spread that Asher was having affairs. During shoots, they stopped talking and asked for different times. The wait times got longer. To talk to each other after 1972, they had to use other people. The next year, they got a divorce, but Montgomery said it was hard on her to act like she was happy in marriage on screen while she was crying behind closed doors. The last blow was in the last season. During shooting, a guest director said something rude about Montgomery's body. She felt ashamed. She threatened to quit if her husband stayed on the show, even though she was already unhappy. The producer said no. Montgomery took a walk. ABC made her huge offers to stay, but she was done. She picked honor over money. The show Bewitched was over in an instant. It was over for the show in 1972, and Montgomery changed everything. There will be no more sitcoms or witch parts. When she was done with Bewitched, her first job was a thriller called The Victim. In the next 2 years, she turned down more than 17 comedic parts. She even turned down $750,000 to be in a movie about Bewitched. Her handler said she told him to set the broom on fire. In 1974, she played a rape victim in a rape case that 31 million people saw. After a year, she broke her clean-cut image when she swung an axe in The Legend of Lizzie Borden. She even filmed one of the first naked scenes on TV, which was in a serious plot. She finally became the actress she wanted to be with the help of her new partner, Robert Foxworth. Before getting married in 1993, they were together for 20 years. Things changed again in 1994, though. She began to lose weight and feel tired. While shooting Deadline for Murder, she looked pale, but she thought it was just the flu. It was too much for her to ignore. By March 1995. Colorectal cancer in stage 4 was found by doctors. It was already everywhere. She didn't tell anyone. Her staff kept telling her she was just sick. She had only 8 weeks left to live when she died on May 18, 1995. She was 62 years old. It was 1956, and Agnes Moorehead agreed to be in a movie called The Conqueror with John Wayne, Susan Hayward, and Pedro Armendáriz. At that time, no one knew, but they would all remember that choice for the rest of their lives. You can see the movie in St. George, Utah, which is only 137 miles away from the Nevada test site. The area had been hit by nuclear fallout from 11 above-ground bomb tests just 3 years before. It was known as Operation Upshot Knothole. Even though the dirt still had radiation in it, the cameras kept rolling. The next part sounds like a scary story. By 1980, 91 of the 220 cast and crew members had been diagnosed with cancer. 46 people died. That's 21%. The director Dick Powell passed away in 1963 from cancer. Pedro Armendáriz killed himself after being told he had cancer that would kill him soon. It was 1975 when Susan Hayward died of brain cancer. It was in 1979 that John Wayne lost his battle with stomach cancer. Agnes Moorehead died in 1974 from cancer of the uterus. She said something scary before she died. "I really shouldn't have taken that part." Things got even worse when director Howard Hughes brought back 60 tons of Utah dirt to Hollywood to reshoot the movies. This made the danger even bigger. Even Wayne and Hayward's kids, who had only been to the set once, got cancer later on. While Moorehead had been through a lot of pain, she held Dick York very close to her heart. Even though it seemed like they were always fighting on Bewitched, it wasn't true. Agnes and Dick became very close behind the scenes. She laughed at him. She praised his timing, how kind he was, and how hard he worked. The directors filmed York sitting, leaning, and even lying down to make things easier for him because he had hurt his back badly years before. But one day in 1969, York passed out from a seizure and never came back. It was awful for Moorehead. She didn't try to hide her loyalty when Dick Sargent took his place. She said slowly, "I don't like change," at their first table read. Sargent cried more than once. She worked with him for 3 more years, but she never got to know him. Her heart was still with York. Moorehead was very good, but she never won an Oscar. 4 times she was put forward. First for The Wonderful Ambersons in 1942, then for Mrs. Parkington in 1944, Johnny Belinda in 1948, and finally for Sweet Charlotte. Sweet Charlotte in 1964. The judges loved her, but she didn't win any of them. An Emmy and 2 Golden Globes were hers. She was great at playing comedic dramatic bad guys and good guys. She played Kane's mother in Citizen Kane, even though Orson Welles was only 15 years bigger than her. She was very scary in Dark Passage. She played a 105-year-old woman in The Lost Moment. She made more than 70 movies, but she never won an Oscar. The way she was raised made her story even stranger. Agnes was born in Massachusetts in 1900. The pastor her father was a Presbyterian, and the singer her mother was. She said prayers in church when she was 3 years old. It didn't matter where she was, she always had her Bible with her. The first degree she got was in biology. The second degree she earned was in English while teaching in Wisconsin. She stuck to her faith the whole time. She even gave Bob Jones University her house and her collection of Christian books. She saw the irony. In real life she was a Christian, even though she played a witch on TV. Her death in 1974, only 2 years after the end of Bewitched, shocked everyone. She was 73 years old. She didn't smoke. She didn't drink. She took good care of her health. Her mother said the invader was to blame, but she wasn't the only one in the group who died. She played the nosy neighbor Gladys Kravitz, and she died of ovarian cancer at the age of 48 in 1966. 2 years after that, Marion Lorne, Aunt Clara's beloved mother, died of a heart attack. Paul Lynde, who played Uncle Arthur, died of a heart attack in 1982. A few years after Moorhead. It was the same year that Mabel Albertson, who played Darren's mother, died. Only 3 of the 23 actors who had been in at least 10 episodes of Bewitched were still living in 2014. Fans began to talk about a curse. The death of Paul Lynde was very sad. He made people laugh, but off-screen he fought evil. He was rough to work with, and drank a lot. He was 55 years old when he was found dead in his Beverly Hills home in 1982. There was a bottle of poppers nearby. He had a heart attack, but people who knew him well knew he had been sick for more than a year. He had one of the most recognizable sounds on TV. It was quick, biting, and sarcastic. But there was a man in pain behind the jokes. David White, who played Larry Tate, was too familiar with death. Mary, his wife, died in 1958, while she was pregnant with their second child. Jonathan, their son, was only 3 years old. David raised him by himself while he worked outside the home. He loved what he did so much that he asked the makers to name Larry Tate's child after him. They agreed, but again tragedy happened. Jonathan was on Pan Am Flight 103 in 1988 when it was hit by a bomb over Lockerbie, Scotland. 33. David changed a lot. Some of his friends said he shut down totally. There were 2 more years. In 1990, just before Jonathan's death anniversary, David had a heart attack and died at the age of 74. His ashes were buried next to those of his boys. Alice Pierce made people laugh while keeping a dangerous truth from them. Before Bewitched even started, she knew she had cancer that would kill her, but she took the part anyway. She didn't say anything. She kept going even though her health was getting worse and her weight was going down. Just 2 weeks before she died, her last show was filmed. She passed away on March 3, 1966. She was only 48 years old. She won an Emmy after her death, a few months later. It was okay with her husband. Her ashes were spread out in the ocean. Marion Lorne worked in theater for a long time before she joined Bewitched. In real life, she gathered doorknobs, which she brought to play Aunt Clara. She died in May 1968, just 10 days before another Emmy was given to someone who had already died. It was accepted for her by Elizabeth Montgomery, 2 women from the same show. It won 2 Emmys after it died. Too many farewells. Most people believe that Bewitched caused a lot of bad things to happen. The star Elizabeth Montgomery died of cancer when she was only 62 years old. And Dora was played by Agnes Moorehead, who also died of cancer at the age of 73. Others connected to the show also had a hard time. Fans started to talk about a curse, but Erin Murphy didn't just make it through it. She did not follow the plan at all. She was born on June 17, 1964, and played Little Tabitha in 103 shows from 1966 to 1972. It was very likely that she would fall into the same trap that kid stars do. Fame too early, and no way to go afterwards. She didn't though. She says that simple self-confidence is what helped her stay alive. She chose to leave Hollywood on her own. She said that I left the business before it fired me. She might have lived because of that one choice. She turned 60 in 2025, and her name is no longer lost. It's now connected to a lot more than just acting. She has worked in business, fashion as an inspiring speaker, and for charity. Autism issues are very important to her. Parker, her son, has autism. She didn't let the show make her who she was. She says that when she thinks about Bewitched, she remembers it with love, not fear. That doesn't happen often. It was 1972 when Bewitched finished, and Murphy was only 8 years. They were already calling her about jobs, but she shocked everyone. They were turned down. She didn't look for another job. Instead, she went to Girl Scout camp. She even turned down a job on the Waltons. A lot of kids would jump at the chance to do that, but Murphy decided to have a normal childhood. She didn't want to be turned down, go through interviews, or feel pressured. She was a cheerleader, and then a homecoming queen after her family moved to Orange County. After high school, she never looked back. It says it all in her motto. You'll live longer if you jump off that cliff. She was also there when Bewitched ended. There were changes going on behind the scenes for a long time before the last show aired in March 1972. By season 8, things were getting worse, even though the show was still famous and was shown in over 100 countries. Murphy saw the change even when he was a kid, Liz Montgomery, who played her mother on TV, was ready to move on. During those years, she was like a real mother to Murphy, but she was ready for a change. She didn't want to deal with her twitching nose and spells anymore. Still, the show was great until the end, thanks to its strong writers, stars and fans who stuck with it. Murphy would say that any TV show can last if it's done well. Murphy is unique because she has a unique view of both Darrens. She started out working for Dick York, and then switched to working for Dick Sargent when York quit in 1969. She knew York was hurt even when she was only 5 years old. His back problems and drug use made it hard for him to make movies. Because York couldn't make it, some lines had to be rewritten at the last minute. Darren didn't show up in 7 episodes of one season. Murphy remembered how the crew tried to keep her safe from the stress. She still felt it though. Even though things were crazy, she stayed close to both actors, who played her TV dad. He doesn't think it's a curse, but other people do. She thought the Benedict set was a dream. She said it was great. They made it fun. Pets, laughs and real connections were there. The players treated her like a member of the family. A lot was meant by Elizabeth Montgomery in particular. Jones said, "She was really like a mum to me. They stayed friends even when they weren't working. They were both funny in a dark way. They had a real friendship, not just for the shoot."